Late Tuesday night, a sudden hailstorm hit Rome, shocking the eternal city, and marble streets and historic squares were covered in ice. Residents described this storm as unexpected and terrified, with the hailstorm raged in the sides from the marble of golf balls, smashed cars, breaking windows and damaged roofs. Central areas such as Trastevere, Piazza Venezia and Termini were hardest hit, with the later levels rising rapidly in low-lying areas. Passengers were stranded on bases in cars, while residents sought shelters. It was like a winter storm in the middle of summer, said Lucia De Santis, owner of café near Colosseum. Customers ran into the café screaming as hailstones tore our umbrellas to pieces. The Italian fire service Vigili del Fuoco received more than 300 emergency calls about flooded streets, fallen trees and damaged cars. Several metro stations, including Barberini and Repubblica, were temporarily closed due to water inside the tunnels. Authorities confirmed that at least 10 people suffered minor injuries after being hit by hail or slippery on ice sidewalks. Meteorologists attribute the storm to a collision between most Mediterranean air and cold floor northern currents, which create conditions to supercell over central Italy. These sudden convective storms can release enormous energy in a very short time, explained Dr. Paolo Rinaldi, a meteorologist with the Italian Meteorological Service. The storm also caused significant damage to agriculture in the Lazio region, where vineyards and olive groves were hardest hit. Heavy hail, causing millions of dollars in damage, according to preliminary estimates. Farmers such as Monaco Bianchi near Frascati described the event devastation as it destroyed two entire groves in a matter of minutes. Social media was flooded, with a video showed hailstones bouncing the historic moments, water pounding down the Spanish steps and the residents wandering the frozen streets. Authorities urged people to stay indoors, and emergency service working through the night to clear debris and restore transport. Experts warned that the storm this intensity may become more frequent due to climate change, with the increase in atmospheric instability and contributed to extreme weather events throughout the Mediterranean region. As night fell, Rome was transformed into a surreal scene, and itself monuments glistered under the layer of ice. Streets were littered with the fallen branches and damaged cars, a stark reminder and unpredictable power of nature in the heart of the eternal city. On Wednesday afternoon, a sudden and violent hailstorm hit Rome, forced residents and tourists to seek shelters, and a peace pelted the city. The streets were quickly covered with a thick layer of hail, turning iconic locations such as Pisa, Navona, Valle di Corso and Trastevere into frozen pools. Witnesses described the storm as absolutely terrifying. Gianni Rossi, a local taxi driver, said, "I lived in Rome all my life, but I have never seen anything like this. Cars were damaged and a hailstorm bouncing on the roof like bullets." Emergency service reported more than 400 calls, including people trapped in the cars, flooded names, and the fallen trees blocked major road. Vigili del Fuoco worked round the clock to clear the streets and help residents. Several metro stations, including Repubblica and Barberini, were temporarily closed due to water inside the tunnel, leaving passengers stranded. Authorities confirmed minor injuries from the hail strikes and slippery sidewalk. Meteorologists explained that the storm was a result of rapid interaction between the most Mediterranean air and a cold northern front, creating extremely unstable conditions. The classic convective supercell storm, short-lived but extremely intense. said senior meteorologist Dr. Alexandra Ferry. The impact on agriculture was severe. Vineyards and olive groves in Frascati and surrounding areas were damaged, where preliminary estimated putting crop losers into millions of euros. Local farmer Marco Berlandi said they have failed in a matter of minutes and destroyed weeks to hard. Social media was flooded with the dramatic images, hail bouncing off historic statues, water flooding in the Spanish Steps, and the residents helping each other to navigate the street. Many compared this scene of winter storm described the summer temperatures. Experts warn that climate change is intensifying such storms throughout the Mediterranean. Climatologist Dr. Gianni Rosso noted, warmer sea and increasing atmospheric humidity increased likelihood in a sudden severe storm. By nightfall, the streets of Rome were glistered with ice and debris and remind of the powerful of nature. Residents ventured cautionally outside to assess the damage, capturing surreal images and instant landmarks under the glittering blanket of hail.
Porco Dio, Dio.
A powerful hailstorm swept across Rome late Wednesday afternoon, turning the city into a frozen battlefield as a hailstorm, large of a golf ball, pounded streets, cars and rooftops. The storm struck without warning, sending residents and tourists scrambling to cover with the cafe shops and under a warning. Central districts, including Trastevere, Piazza Venezia and Termini, were hardest hit. Flooded streets, trapped vehicles, and emergency service responded to over 500 calls to stranded motorists, fallen trees and damaged buildings. It was like the city was under siege, said Luca Romana, a resident in Trastevere. He smashed car window and the water rose too quickly to escape. The Vigili del Fuoco, Italian Fire and Rescue Service worked throughout the night, clearing debris and rescue people from the floodwaters. Several metro stations, including Barberini, were temporarily closed. A water entire tunnels, authority confirmed minor injury to residents by hail and slippery ice pavement. Meteorologists explained the storm was caused by the collision of hot, humid Mediterranean air with a cold front from the north, powering the supercell system capable to releasing enormous energy in a short time. These storms are increasingly violent and unpredictable. Agriculture is surrounding laser suffered heavily. Vineyard, olive groves and citrus orange were devastated within minutes, leading the preliminary estimates of millions of euros in losers. Meanwhile, firefighters from all over Italy were sent to reinforce rescue force. Social media is flooded with the images and dramatic rescue operations. Children begin lifted from rooftops, elderly people begin to carry out throughout the waist deep water, and pain being saved from the daunting. The hashtag Sicilia Scotta Aqua were become popular throughout the country. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni expressed solidarity with the region, promising no community will be left without the help. We will rebuild our support every affected family. Experts warn that the Mediterranean region is becoming increasingly vulnerable to such storm. In the recent report by European Environmental Agency, Sicily was identified as a climate hotspot facing rising sea levels, heat waves and now extreme rainfall. As the sky begins to clear, attention turned to recover. Damage assessment now ongoing to questions are being raised about the urban planning, drainage system and early warning protocols. But for many Sicilians, healing will take no longer. As a Giulia Manga, whose home was destroyed, it said with the tears here years. We survived but not lost everything. Now we have started all over again. In In dramatic turn of events, Sicily finds itself thus in unprecedented storm as nature unleashed at any pure upon the picturesque Italian island. We burst of the exclusive coverage of meteorological spectacle, deletion the impact of communities, infrastructure and the environment. As the storm approached Sicily, among the clouds gathering hilding the tempest to unparalleled proportions. Coastal area forced to onslaught the fierce winds and torrential rains, leading the widespread flooding in challenging conditions to both residents to emergency service. Our on the ground reported paint a vivid picture to havoc wreaked by the storm. The city of Palermo was transformed into rivers and water levels served submerged cars and tested to resilience to floodedness. The historic architecture withstood the test time to the faces of relentless onslaught of the wind of rain. Throughout the island communities are grappling with the power outage, and the storm force causes significant damage to electrical infrastructure. Emergency shelters have been opened to provide refuge to those displaced by the storm. The Italian government has declared a state of emergency in the several regions, mobilized rescue workers and deployed the army to assist the evacuation force. Civil protection authorities have urged people in the affected areas to remind cautions to need official warning to forecast in coming days. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni visited in affected areas and presented their solidarity with the victims and pledged government support to reconstruction efforts. This is a national emergency, and we are working closely with the local authorities to ensure the safety of all residents, she said. Climate experts warn that such extreme weather events become more frequent due to climate change. Italy, with a varied geography, is particularly vulnerable in the affected changing weather patterns. The combination of heavy rainfall, property, maintained infrastructure, and urban explosion into flood-prone areas in exact pattern the impact of the recent storms.
Esta es la estación de la Garena.
In just a few hours, some areas received more rainfall than they normally do into entire month. Schools and government official and affected areas were closed to precautions and civil protection until the disrupted to assist the damage and assist in cleanup. In Palermo, several unprecedented were flooded rapid cars and landslides were reported in town located on hills. Experts warned that such intense and frequent storm could become normal in southern Italy. Climatologists are urging authorities and citizens to strengthen infrastructure and emergency preparedness on the Mediterranean region continue to face the worsened effect of global warming. As Sicily begins to clean up, the storm severs and not yet another stark reminder on a growing instability on the nature and urgent need to action to ensure environmental sustainability. After the storm, Sicily emergency service remained overwhelmed. Over 315 emergency calls were recorded in 24 hours, and fire crews were sent to Cerrete, Ragusa, and Agrigento to clear fallen trees, restore power lines, and evacuate flooded buildings. Farmers in rural area report catastrophic losses. Vineyard, olive grapes, and retail and citrus orange, where other vital civil economy were flooded. This storm destroyed 12-year work. St. Antonio Rizal, the farmer near Termini, We are in despair. The island's fragile infrastructure suffered serious damage in the southern parts of the island. Bridges in the rural roads collapsing, cutting off Smile Mountains town. In Anna, several landslides blocked all access roads, forcing helicopters to deliver supplies. Rescue teams, including the military, have been deployed to assist with the worst-hit areas. Civil defenders until have set up temporary shelters in schools and community centers of displaced families, many of whom have lost everything. Environmental experts warn that such intense storms are becoming more frequent due to climate change. Italy Environmental Minister has promised a new plan to rebuild the south, including flood protection and reforestation measures to improvement the early warning system, but critics say this measure alone overdue. In Palermo, the sun broke through the grey sky, illuminating the messy aftermath in the night of Sicilian will not soon forget. We use a hardship, said Maria Conte, the grandmother, whose home was flooded, but we will drive flood, support each other and move on. Sicily is beginning to recover, but questions remain. Will the storm, the wake-up call, just another serious ignore of warnings? Culture representative warned that the addition of psychical storm urged me to adapt to climate change were needed to prevent Sicily identified the tourist economy. This is a symbol act of unity in the consulate across the Sicily. Ron Bale solidarity as noon Tuesday, a moment of silence of victims is signs strange to serious. Sicily are no stranger to hardship. From the earthquake to volcanic eruption, they have endured a lot. But this storm, many say, was different, not just a natural disaster, but climate warning. The wind and the water. The Italian city of Palermo was left in shock after the severe storm swept through the Sicilian capital, bringing torrential rain, hurricane-force winds and flash floods that paralyzed the city. Within hours, streets turned into raging rivers, swept away across the trapped residents in their homes. Emergency services were inundated with a call, rescued dozens of people from flooded cars in the basement. It was like a waterfall rushing throughout the streets, said a local shopkeeper. Describe it now if the store was destroyed in minutes. Hospitals reported an influx of patients suffering from the injured and hypothermia. Authorities confirmed several casualties and thousands of people were left without power as the power lines collapsed under the weight of fallen trees. The city's historic districts, usually bustling with the tourists, were usually empty as residents hid in their homes. The storm also disrupted vital infrastructure. Palermo Airport temporarily suspended flights and ferry services were halted due to wave crashed onto the coast. In the rural area around the city, farmland was destroyed onto olive groves and vineyards were flooded, raising fears of significant losses to agriculture. Meteorologists said the storm was intensified by the warm water of the Mediterranean Sea, which follow unstable air masses. Conditions like to the border effects of the climate change. Italy's Civil Protection Agency warned that extreme weather conditions are becoming the new normal, and they call it to mandate investment to flood protection and the early warning system. Local authorities declared a state of emergency, and the government promising to allocate funds to deal with the aftermath of the national disaster. Volunteers joined to brigade the police to clear blocked roads, but recovery expected to take weeks to even months. The Italian capital Rome has been stained after a sudden and violent hailstorm swept through the city, pelting streets, monuments, and neighborhoods with the eyes of the sky of Gauss ball. The storm struck with little warning, turning summer strikes into a dramatic clash of thunder and lightning before unleashing torrents, the rain mixing with hail. Within minutes, rolled, turned it wild, resembling winter snow rather than a September evening. I felt like the sky was exploding, said Marco Bianchi, a taxi driver whose car window was shattering. I lived here all life and never seen Rome like this. Dozens of people were threatened to injure, many from flying glass and fallen debris. Hospital reported cases to shock and debris and brushes, where several children were taken with a hit injury caused by the hailstorm. Emergency service received across the city responded to collapsing shops, canopies, damaged vehicles, and flooded underpasses. Tourists were cut off guard in a historic era, with doors around the shelter inside the Colosseum and St. Peter Basilica and hailstorm battered courtyard and pieces. Social media quickly filmed with the several images of the Trevi fountain surrounded by the sky, with the local described it into steam from another world. Transport was now into disarray. Rome's metro facing delay after water seeped into tunnels, with the traffic jams scattered into kilometers and the driver abandoned damaged car. Agriculture outside the city was also hit. The vineyard in Lazio suffered severe damage and the entire crew destroyed just a week before harvest, raising fears of million losers to the local farmers. Meteorologists explained the storm was fueling the unusually warm Mediterranean air classes the colder north front, creating the perfect conditions to the hail formations. Experts warning that climate change is making such extreme events more frequent even in the region accustomed to them.
يا رب يا رب لطفك يا ارحم الراحمين يا الله لطفك يا رب يا الله لطفك يا رب يا الله لطفك يا رب يا الله.
The small town of Albalif in province of Como was left in shock after severe hailstorm hit the area on a Monday evening, covering streets, cars and roofs with ice balls the size of walnuts in some areas tennis ball. The storm, which lasted less than half an hour, caused significant damage but struck locals with a sudden ferocity. Residents described it chaotic scenes and roads turned wild in a matter of minutes, forcing cars to stop. It was like an attack, but the hail was so strong that it broke roofs, totaled and damaged cars in seconds, said Maria Conti, a shop owner in the city center. Several houses had broken windows and an emergency service received dozens of calls for help. Firefighters worked throughout the night and cleared fallen branches to secure damaged roofs, with the local farmers reported significant crops losers, especially in vineyards and orange, were weeks away from the harvest. Agriculture Association estimated the damage of hundreds of thousands of euros. Videos posted online showed the streets Albaville resembling frozen river with a rain overflowing with a sudden rush in water and ice. Public transport rather disruption throughout the province of Como, and temporarily enclosures were put up in place in prevent incidents. Meteorologists explained the phenomenon as a result in a sharp rise in hot, humid air against the cold front moving from the northern Italy, and the collisions that can cause severe thunderstorm and hail. Experts also noted that climate change is increasing both with the frequency and severity of such events throughout the region. Local authority urged residents to check instability in their roofs and vehicles, and the major promised rapid assistance to those affected. Albaville was faced many storms, but this was one of the worst in recent years. We support our community in the recovery, he said. For the many residents of the province of Como, this storm was stark reminder of the unpredictability of nature, and the growing challenge is adapting to weather conditions. Parts of the southern Italy are trying to recover from the torrential rain that caused devastating flood in Sicily. Flooding cities, blocked roads and leaving thousands of people without electricity. Officials have called the disaster a national emergency. Within hours, the streets of Palermo, Catania and Messina turned into raging rivers that swept away cars and flooded the first floor to homes and businesses. The Italian Civil Protection Agency reported that more than 115 millimeters of rain fell in less than 20 hours, an amount that usually falls over several months. Local resident Maria Russo told reporters, "The water came so fast that in a matter of minutes my streets turned into a river. We didn't have time to have anything." Emergency service rescue families standing on rooftops and firefighters walked throughout the night clearing debris and pumping water out of hospitals and schools. At least 20,000 households were left without power and many villages remain isolated after landslides blocked acid roads. Authorities confirmed several injuries, at least 3 deaths, although death toll could rise in such countries.
Faenza, in provincia di Ravenna. Il fiume Lamone è altissimo da record, sta provocando allagamenti, qui siamo nella zona del borgo, via Cimatti. Purtroppo
the land were deepened on the gas field destroyed it. Power outage left more than 400,000 homes in the dark. A rail service was suspended and Palermo airport was severely disrupted. Businesses and county millets is losers, with tourism, agriculture and fishing particularly hard hit. Sicily famous citrus groves, olive trees and vineyards were flooded, raising fears to flood and shortage. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni declared flooding a national emergency, promising immediate funding to military support. "We stand with the Sicily," she said. European Union officials also pledged to assist with the barriers linking to the disaster and urgent need to action on climate change. Experts warn that climate change is intensifying on severe Mediterranean storms, and warning seas are contributing to more intense rainfall. Dr. Rilana Rossi, a climatologist, said, "What we are seeing in Sicily, a venial future is urgent action to take no taking." As the water began to recede, thousands of people forced to plainfield task to rebuilding. Standing outside her destroyed homes in Palermo, surveyor Rosa Ferraro said with the tears in her eyes, "The Sicilians are strong, but the storm was broken our heart." Hospitals reported an increase in administration while several schools closed after the roofs suffered structure damage. Rooms of the overbundled infrastructure succumbed to onslaught. Metro Line A was temporarily suspended due to flooding, and thousands of homes were left without power. Insurers estimated the damage could reach tens of millions of euros, which vehicles a safe ground of outdoors have been the most affected. Farmers in Lazio also suffered losses. Vegetables field and vineyard were hit by the pond. Agriculture Association described the event of the catastrophic blow and the higher the harvest season. Meteorologists linking the storm and wind of the most air and collided with the cold front conditions intensified by the expectation warm weather of the Mediterranean. This is a classic case of extreme weather amplified by climate change. Public transportation was paralyzed, with parts of the subway lines A and B suspended, bases rerouted, and the flights in Campino airport delayed after runway were covered in hail. More than 13,000 residents were left without power, leaving entire neighborhoods in the dark. The economic impact is already severe. Outdoor territories across Rome historic center were destroyed, and initial estimates suggest that the damage could expect 15 million. Farmers in Lazio described the storm and destination, an entire vineyard and olive groves are destroyed in a matter of minutes. Experts blame a collision between humid Mediterranean air and an intense cold front. Meteorologist Elena Rossi noted Rome is experiencing storm weather previously unthinkable. Climate change is increasing both their frequency and intensity. Resident and shaken by their silence, cafe owner Marco De Santis, weapon broken glass, had the balcony said. The city was survived the Melina, but every year nature is harder. It is a weekend we cannot ignore. Hospitals reported on the sharp increase in important of the bureaus and the minor factories. Businesses, especially cafes and open-air markets, suffered significant losers of the sudden food destroyed supplies to outdoor sitting areas. Farmers to the outskirts and the city also serious losses, and a vineyard and olive groves were destroyed by the storm. Video quickly spread on social media showed hailstones bouncing off incident capables of the floating landmarks such as the Colosseum, shocking viewers around the world. Tourists caught on the storm described the experiences as apocalyptic. Climate experts warned that such extreme weather events are becoming more frequent in Italy, pointing out the former warmer seas contributed the strong storm. As the cleanup efforts continue, Rome is telling the financial damage and reflection to the capital vulnerability to sudden climate shock. Local farmers in the Lazio region reported severe damage on a vineyard and olive grove during accompanied harvest season. Social media flooded with the shocking footage on hail pelting on around Colosseum and Trevi Foundation with the thunder echoing across the sky. Many Romans struggled to hide in their astonishment. It's like the end of the world, said Maria, a shop owner in the Trastevere district. The street turned completely white in an instant. I've never seen anything like that. Experts warn that such extreme weather events are becoming more frequent as the climate patterns in southern Europe shift. We are witnessing the Mediterranean region transformed into a source of violent storm, stated climatologist Elisa Romano. As snow removal crews cleared the ice debris, Rome felt that the aftermath of extreme weather damage and stark reminder of the event of Eternal City is not immune to natural fury. Chaos and disbelief swept through the Italian capital as a ferocious hailstorm tore across Rome, blanketing the streets in ice, flooding tunnels and leaving residents trapped in their cars and homes. The storm, which started suddenly in the late afternoon, turned into Eternal City, into the witness described it as a frozen battlefield. Meteorologists said the event was triggered by a clash between the warm Mediterranean air and rapidly advanced Arctic front, a combination that prouded towering thunderstorm and the severe hail. Within moments, hailstones the size of large coins plummeted the city, shattered windows and dented vehicles across entire neighborhoods. I've lived in Rome, and whole life I never seen anything like it, said 34-year-old taxi driver Marco De Santis. The storm unleashed torrents in the city water through the several districts, including Trastevere, San Giovanni, and Ossa, where drainage system was overwhelmed. Firefighters reported to more than 1,500 emergency calls, rescuing stranded motorists and pumped water from metro station and underground garage. Power cuts hit multiple areas, while traffic across A19 ring road ground to half an hour. Photos and videos shared online showed rivers of ice flowing through the incident cobblestone streets and a half building knee-deep around the famous landmark. The Trevi Foundation overflowed with a ruin of water, while parts of Via del Corso resembled glacier.
Una cosa incredibile.
Rome, Italy. Rome was thrown into chaos as a sudden violent hailstorm struck at the city, transforming its cobblestone streets into rivers of ice and leaving a scene of destruction and astonishment. The storm arrived without warning late in the afternoon, bringing hailstones the size of large coins, thunder, lightning and torrential rain. Meteorologists from Italy's National Meteorological Agency described the phenomenon as one of the most intense collective storms to hit the Lazio region in recent years. Senior meteorologist Dr. Elena Moretti stated, "The combination of extreme heat and the sudden cold front triggered explosive atmospheric instability. Within the minutes, the sky darkened, and a hail powdered the city with a different force. Vehicles were damaged, white shields shattered, and roads became impossible under a layer of ice. Fire departments received over 1,400 emergency calls, responded to rescue trapped drivers and pump out water from subway station and underground parking garage. Rome Civil Protection Agency urged residents to stay indoors and flash flood hits at the San Giovanni Trastevere. Italy. This week, violent hailstorm struck parts of the northern and central Italy, unleashed golf ball-sized ice and town of transformed roads, vineyards, and city squares into frozen rivers. Described by Meteorological as one of the most intense storms in the recent years, the disaster caused widespread damage to homes, vehicles, and agriculture, leaving residents tented in its sudden fury. The hardest hit regions were Lombardy, Emilia-Romagna, and Tuscany. In Bologna, hail shattered windows and damaged roofs. In Milan, wide streets of ice-covered streets completely paralyzing traffic. Sudden flooding added the chaos, flooding emergency service with hundreds of rescue requests. Carlo Benedetti, a resident of Madeira, said it was terrified when in minutes the sky turned pitch black and the thousand near rooms of ice were crashing down. The hailstorms with such force they shattered titles and dented cars' bodies on the streets. According to Meteorological from the Italy Civil Protection Department, the storm was triggered by the violent collision between warm air from the Mediterranean and a cold front moving from the Central Europe. Environmental scientists warn that such extreme weather events as parts of the trend accelerated climate change. Professor Gianna Volpe of the University of Rome noted the Mediterranean is warming faster than most of the planet. He explained it warning seas supply by store the atmosphere near Turin store the moisture relatedness in emergency as a destructive hail. As Italy begins recovery efforts, authorities have declared a state of emergency in the multiple region. Damage is estimated to be the hundreds of millions of euros, and the official warned that more extreme weather could continue over the coming weeks. Powerful hailstorm swept across Rome on a Monday evening, transforming in the eternal city into surreal winter scene in the middle of autumn. The violent burst of the weather struck without warning, pelting the capital with the ice stones the size of a marble 8 in some era's golf ball. Within the minutes, streets, pieces, and parked cars were buried under the thick layer of ice, forcing traffic and standstill and overwhelming the city drainage systems. It was like a blizzard, said local resident Marco De Santis, who was driving near Piazza Venezia where the storm hit. The visibility dropped to zero. People were hooking to pulling over, afraid the windshield would shatter. Emergency service received hundreds of calls across Rome and nearby towns. Firefighters rushed to clear blocked roads, flooded underpasses, and fallen trees branches. Public transport was temporarily suspended in several districts, where windows shared online showed buses tragically through the rivers and a hail of water flowing through the metro entries.